Today's video is all about Hemi, activate compliant Bitcoin yield without leaving custody. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into this project, looking into some of the fundamentals such as the team, the tokenomics, the utility, and the overall value proposition, trying to figure out whether this project has what it takes to make it to our portfolio. So you know what, let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins. Looking for opportunity, and the question is Hemi an opportunity? Guys, today we're doing a deep dive. We're going to be looking at all the fundamentals here, trying to take a retail perspective as to, why is Hemi good? Why is Hemi bullish? Should it be included in our portfolio? Right? We're going to be looking at all those little details, ensuring that the team has given us all the transparency necessary to be comfortable and obviously fundamentally bullish. We're going to be using their website as the main platform to navigate. We'll be looking at some of their socials, some of their white papers and documentation and such. And ultimately, guys, I'm going to be putting in the timestamp as well a summary where I do release a infographic highlighting all the little details that I have found throughout the few days of research looking through the project. So feel free to go check that out. I'm going to be posting that summary all over the socials, again, for download. It is high enough quality to be downloaded and zoomed into, so you can kind of read it a little bit better. But we'll go through that towards the end of the video and look at some of the chart and all the price action as well. Okay, so let's begin. Let's see what we got going on with Hemi. So activate compliant Bitcoin yield without leaving custody. Very interesting concept, of course. The unified DeFi layer for Bitcoin that turns idle Bitcoin, we'll talk about what they refer to as idle, into compliant yield with full ownership and secure in custody execution. That's a very, very, it's a mouthful of information, no doubt. But we're going to try to untangle and explain a little bit what that means. Okay, the website's pretty cool. I kind of like what they got going on here. Nice and clean, a bit of interaction, trusted by leading institutions. Guys, these are all very good. Capital 6, many. We got Spectra, another one that has been hanging around, Zero Land, Yield Fi, few others, but there's one logo here that a lot of people are bullish on, right? Let me see if you can get it while I'm speaking here. Quantstamp is pretty cool. The Sushi Swap, obviously being a DEX, they're listed on there. They got some liquidity on there. Layer Bank, Bitcoin, okay. Let's see if we get it. Hyper Chain, maybe the next one, guys. We're waiting. Big Brain Holdings. So there's a few good relationships. I'll be honest. There's a lot of good relationships that they got going on here, including relationships with the exchanges, because exchanges did kind of get involved here. We're talking about Gate, Crypto.com, and more importantly, Binance through their, let's call it, incubation program, or their VC program, where YZI Labs. This is what most people are bullish on right now, because for many reasons, obviously Binance, CZ, and all that, getting involved is quite bullish. But more or less, the reason at the current moment is that they're the biggest holders of the Hemi token at the current moment. So it's something that we need to discuss, of course, based on tokenomics. Let's keep on going down. Let's see what we got here. Total value locked, okay. Total accounts and growing, yield, and DeFi products, Bitcoin secured transactions. So what we have to understand, in what they didn't really make clear yet, is what it is. They're getting into metrics without really explaining what it is exactly. And that's one of the things that I struggled here with Hemi as I was doing the research, is that the concept is not very clear for a retail investor. In the sense is, you really have to understand what crypto is and what Bitcoin is and what Ethereum is to truly understand how their mechanism works, which makes things difficult, right? Because as of now, there's no real indication of what it is about Hemi. Let's see what they got here. Where Bitcoin native yield meets into institutional fidelity. Again, lots of jargon, lots of words, but what is it? What is Hemi? Hemi unifies Bitcoin security with Ethereum grade programmability, allowing institutions to deploy native Bitcoin into yield strategies while preserving full control and compliance. We're getting there, guys. So that's the message. I feel like this should be the core of what should be on this website, should be at the front. The first 15 seconds should be describing and explaining this and why this matters. And I'll do my best to kind of untangle and make this a little bit more clear for you guys, because I am taking a retail perspective. And mind you, this is not an easy project to truly understand. So I'm going to do my best here. And again, if we can get maybe a Hemi team member to explain it to us like a grade 11 comp sci student, that would be amazing, of course. But I'm going to do my best here. Institutions can earn on-chain yield with native Bitcoin without wrappers. Guys, if you know what wrap Bitcoin, a lot of these other let's call it Bitcoin narrative projects, basically they say that they are bringing Bitcoin yield onto their chain, but really it's wrapped Bitcoin. Okay, wrapped Bitcoin is not true Bitcoin. Okay, it's not real Bitcoin. Let's put it that way. Or middleman. Hemi provides transparent institutional grade infrastructure for secure compliance and clarity. So how it works, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up this tab because I want to make sure I have this tab open. I'm sure I already do, but it's okay. We'll have that open just in case. Okay. Convert your Bitcoin into performing capital. So what we have to understand what is trying to be built here is bring Bitcoin a level of liquidity that extends itself from just being Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin as a store of value does that job very well. And I'm going to take this opportunity to kind of like introduce the main concept here of Hemi, because I don't really see it yet. Earn compliant Bitcoin yield in 4 steps. Okay. And again, they really do take their time to really get into what it is. Our partners, okay, build Bitcoin infrastructure with EVM flexibility and proof of security, okay, their consensus. So I'm gonna just hold on here, okay. So let's just kind of like get through the website as best as we can. I don't want to jump the gun. So you can see they have these capabilities, right? Explore curated risk management strategies for institutional portfolios while keeping Bitcoin as Bitcoin. So it allows Bitcoin's value to be transacted or transferred, right, to a smart contract platform. This is the key. Okay, this is what it is, and this is where I feel like it should be the main bread and butter behind the message here on this website. All right, so Spectra, permissionless yield protocol offering passive returns. So these are all partners or relationships that they have. River, turn your Bitcoin into yield. Merkle, claim protocol rewards, maximize yield across multiple platforms with keeping your assets in your wallet. VFAT, access curated yield. Again, this is all yield-bearing opportunities for your Bitcoin asset. Okay, this is, and you can see the APY and such. So what should be going through your mind is, am I finally being able to participate in DeFi with Bitcoin? Well, guess what, guys? This is the case. This is it. This is the opportunity. This is the Bitcoin narrative that many projects have already started and didn't really penetrate through, gaining that first mover advantage. This is why, I'm happy that the community did vote on Hemi, because this is another attempt from a team and we're going to talk about the team, okay, to really penetrate this opportunity and perhaps become the first mover into this narrative that actually makes a difference. Okay, this is the thing. We're looking for software solutions that make a difference, that add value to the way we use blockchain technology and such. And right now, we're slowly getting to the story, bit by bit. Okay, I'm hungry for it, but it seems like maybe the story is towards the bottom of the website, which I believe it should be at the top. Connect custody, link your custodial wallet, activate an account, allocate Bitcoin, monitor your yield. So it's easy as that. You're able to monitor or gain yield off your Bitcoin. Okay, so it is what it is. Let's keep on moving. Trusted by leading institutions. We got Stargate. This is something to be really bullish on. There was some very good news that came out over the weekend that caused the Hemi price to surge. Guys, I don't know if you realize, but in the last 24 hours, it has been doing pretty good. And then in addition, you got some of these. I'm not sure if I can scroll. Not sure if I can scroll to see more of this, but it is Hemi lets us bring Spectra EVM logic in Bitcoin. That's what it is. EVM compatibility to Bitcoin. How does that even happen, guys? Okay, this is important stuff. Now, of course, they have their bridge. We're going to talk about all their internal workings as best as we can. Again, guys, I'm trying to take a retail perspective. I'm not trying to get low level. I want to stay high level. Under the hood matters, but again, this is not an engineering deep dive or a tech deep dive. This is a Web3 crypto asset deep dive. And getting on the hood is great, but again, it's very important that we understand it also from a Web3 perspective. They have partners, many good small relationships. Okay, this is something that you have to understand. It is a new project. This market cap is very, very small. Let's quickly take a look and refresh to see. We're at about 16.5 million dollar market cap. Guys, it is a tiny cap, baby cap. Okay, so which means that it's going to be very volatile. Its relationships that it's able to acquire might be just based on speculation. Therefore, large players might just kind of like hang back for a little while. And we're going through, and you can see clients, Spectra, Plutos. These are individuals. These are um, institutions or clients that are using their software. Ecosystem partners. Again, lots of little partnerships. Custodial custody partners. Coinbase custody. BitGo. These are big names. These are some big names. These are pretty good. Exchange partners, of course, Gate, Binance, Crypto.com, and a few others, as you can see. Well, we're missing a few mid tier, and of course, Coinbase. I don't see them listed on Coinbase yet, so that's something to conclude, right? Also, they have some press. Again, this is good marketing. CoinDesk, Blockworks, Binance Square. I expected that. Bloomberg. Cointelegraph. These are big names within the space, so this is good relationship building. This is a relationship description essentially with what they have within the industry. So this is healthy. This is good. Okay, guys. So we got to be very clear about what's a partner, what's a relationship, and what's a strategic partnership and such. And I like what I see so far. Build on Bitcoin. Okay, so just to kind of back it up a little bit. Okay, it is part of the BOB narrative, the build on Bitcoin narrative. It's not build on Bitcoin exact because they have their own tech stack, right? Because there's another Bob token hanging around, so let's not get it confused. But it is part of that build on Bitcoin concept, okay? Infrastructure with EVM flexibility and POP security. So this is where we're going to get a little bit technical. I'm going to do my best, and I have a video for you guys that I want to share with you guys. It's a short clip. Basically, one of the creator of the POP, the consensus. He tries to explain how Hemi works alongside Ethereum. So let's talk about that. So Hemi is full EVM compatible. So it is EVM, but it's an altered, augmented version of EVM in the sense that it adds a Bitcoin to its compatibility, which which basically provides a full node access to the EVM, essentially allowing its smart contracts to peer into the Bitcoin network. So being able to extract or get data from the Bitcoin network. And for those of you that understand, ComSci and things like that, there are ways to create set and get capabilities within an infrastructure or a closed system while still allowing, in this case, Hemi to peer into the Bitcoin blockchain through get functions and then perhaps write to the Bitcoin blockchain using set functions. So this is important here, guys, because we have to understand that Hemi is a scenario where you have an L2, because Hemi is an L2 on Ethereum, making it fully EVM compatible, but it also is an L2 for Bitcoin. So we have a scenario where we have an L1, which has never really been thought of, which is Bitcoin, and now we have an L2 for Bitcoin, which is Hemi, but it's also an L2 for Ethereum. Now, the L2 aspect of Hemi for Ethereum is even compatible, but it allows, because of its node capabilities, its Bitcoin node integration, it allows it to peer into the Bitcoin network. This is very, very important. Okay, so STK and APIs, institution ready tools for custody, integration, accounting, and reporting. So because of this, Hemi is able to interact with Bitcoin at a different level than any other blockchain that it currently exists, because most of them rely on wrapped Bitcoin. Okay, this is important. This is not wrapped Bitcoin because Hemi can peer into the Bitcoin blockchain. And actually, if you kind of, we're going to talk about it in a second, but in fact, what it does is it uses the Bitcoin security to inscript, to basically write to the Bitcoin blockchain Hemi's state, so that it becomes, so basically takes advantage of its security feature, its features of security. So we can refer to the Bitcoin blockchain and actually refer to the Bitcoin blockchain with a sense of security, and ultimately refer to it for the Hemi state to make sure Hemi's blocks are appropriate, and so on and so forth, right? So, and this is where you get the proof ecosystem. Guys, say that 5 times fast. I dare you. Okay, proof of proof. Every transaction inherits Bitcoin consensus security with flexible execution, access to allocated capital, connect institutional liquidity, and distributed network with fully custody compliance. So there's a lot happening here. Okay, this is a big part, and I feel like there's a lot of educational opportunities here. Tons. Okay, so we're gonna dig a little bit deeper into that in a second. Some articles on their blogs and so on. I appreciate their blogs. I appreciate the aspect behind their connection to Bitcoin. And guys, you don't even know. Okay, if you do, if you know, you know. But if you don't know, you don't know, and you'll find out very soon. Its connection to Bitcoin via the team and its history is spectacular. It's something to be bullish about. Okay, let's put it that way. Even if you're a Bitcoin maxi, it still has an opportunity for you. Unlock the institutional Bitcoin yield with full compliance. A lot of repetition here. Cool graphics. You gotta admit, I kind of like the website. Subscribe and so on and so forth. So that's it. So there's a little bit of information here. I'll admit it does pretty good, but I would have loved more of an educational aspect. Again, on the website, not on extra posts and pages, just a little bit more, but it does a pretty good job. Now, institutional layer, let's see, this was the link that I opened up before. A little bit of repetition, build for institutional scale, yield Bitcoin. This dude right here, Jeff Garzik, he's an OG in this space. He's an OG Bitcoin. Um, Basically, he was the early development team of her Bitcoin. He worked with Satoshi himself. So this is a big deal, right? Because if there's anybody that's going to know the Bitcoin blockchain and its inner workings, it's going to be this guy, right? And because of that, there's a little bit of that following from Bitcoiners, from maxis, that should appreciate what he's trying to achieve, right? Bitcoin's utility is very limited. It's very basic, but it does it very, very well. Let's put it on at par with low tech technology. Doesn't mean that because it's low, it's bad. It just means that it does what it does very simply, but it does it very well, and it's the best at what it does. Amazing. But we're trying to bring Bitcoin into a place of which other projects like Ethereum, like Solana's, and all the rest, are currently speculating on how to give functionality to the blockchain. And at this rate, Bitcoin's being left out. And not only Bitcoin as a chain, but Bitcoin as a liquid asset. If we want to improve Bitcoin's liquidity, we got to be able to use Bitcoin itself, native Bitcoin itself, to be able to transact within the Web3 space where applications lie. Or else, how are you going to apply Bitcoin's liquidity if it's stuck within its own echo chamber? This is the problem with Bitcoin. A lot of people don't really understand and may disagree with me. That's totally fine. But it doesn't matter. The fact is the fact. What are you going to do with your Bitcoin? What can you do with your Bitcoin? Nothing. You can't do anything with it. What if I do want to do something with it? Do you have an option? No, you don't have an option. Well, here you have options. Here they're bringing the options to you, right? So it is definitely speculative scenario, right? Foundation of a verifiable Bitcoin yield, proof of proof consensus. Every yield event is validated and anchored to Bitcoin for immutable transparency. So I'm going to try my best to get to this a little bit. I'm going to try to summarize. I'm going to try to dig through as much as I can and then summarize it at the end, what this proof of proof consensus really is. But it's an amazing opportunity to truly understand. I'm going to show you a video very soon. So hang tight here, guys. We have Hemi, Stacks. You guys follow Stacks? This is right now, one of the more popular, let's say, in this year with regards to the Bitcoin narrative, right? On-chain proofs, limited, no support for native custody, no, only wrap Bitcoin, regulatory audits, no support. Here, Hemi checks it all off. Perfect. Okay, so that's good comparison right there. Compliance, control, and transparency perform okay, a little bit more happening there. I'm just trying to, a little bit repetition here on this website. Trying to get to what we can actually use. Audible, of course. They have they're definitely audited. They got some big players there. Committing, okay, so on and so forth. All right, so they do have a couple of white papers. Let's move on for a sec. Let's see what else I got here for you. They have a white paper. Guys, this is a very traditional type of white paper. I like the Gitbooks style white papers. These guys right here, the documentation is a lot better. It allows you to search. As you can see, that's what I was doing, token distribution and all that. Unfortunately, there wasn't really a lot there. It is on the website, which we're going to bounce back to in a second. But if you go to its main, welcome to Hemi. So this is where you can get a little bit of the details. The Hemi network is a modular layer 2 protocol for superior scaling. That's very important. So it's a layer 2 for Bitcoin and Ethereum. Okay, so this is where we're understanding that if Bitcoin and Ethereum are at the same level in this case, whereas other projects are pro Bitcoin and Ethereum ecosystem silos. Hemi views them as components of a single super network. So they're equal components to a super network. So they created something very special here, which is the Hemi virtual machine, HVM, which incorporates a full, this is key, guys. This is key. It incorporates a full Bitcoin node within Ethereum virtual machine. This is what I was trying to explain earlier. So now at this point, we have to understand that yes, it's EVM, right? EVM compatible, meaning the Ethereum virtual machine, which means everything that a programmer programs for Ethereum has to be done through Solidity and its architecture and so on. But within that architecture, they were able to incorporate a full Bitcoin node, which gives that architecture the opportunity to peer into Bitcoin itself. That is empowering, very empowering, because that way you don't need a wrapped Bitcoin at all. You can go and check the state of Bitcoin natively right on the Ethereum virtual machine, right? This is what we're looking for here. Combined with the Hemi blockchain kit, HBK, developers have a familiar, again, EVM compatible makes a very familiar scenario, yet powerful platform for creating Hemi decentralized applications, HApps, okay? So because a lot of devs in this space in Web3 are very familiar with Solidity, it makes it a lot easier, less friction for development of these different applications while still having the empowering feature of the full Bitcoin node. Crazy stuff here, guys. Like something that I haven't seen yet. So let's continue. Benefits of Hemi, guys. I'm not gonna, read this all to you. I'm assuming that you can all read, but ease of development, Bitcoin programmability. This is what I was trying to tell you. Now we can actually program applications that integrates Bitcoin. It integrates Bitcoin's liquidity for DeFi, bringing a whole new concept, a whole new narrative of Bitcoin fi. Ultimately, we can put our Bitcoin to work instead of just a store of value that stays there untouchable. We can actually maybe you earn yield off of it, right? And make it more liquid that way and give it utility. Bitcoin super finality, proof of proof, consensus mechanism ensures transactions surpass Bitcoin's level of security in just a few hours. This is proof of proof. Consensus mechanism is something that has been developed custom here for Hemi. And we're going to talk about the team members. We're going to talk about the everything that we need to know about all of this. Just bear with me here. Trustless cross-chain portability. So with the HVM, the Hemi virtual machine, again, Bitcoin and Ethereum states enable secure, seamless asset transfer between Hemi and other chains through the tunnels feature. It has tunnels, which are also like bridges, but similar to bridges. Okay, as bridges rely on a wrapped concept, tunnels don't. And again, guys, this is not a tech deep dive. I would be happy to speak to one of the developers on the team to maybe explain it to us like we're in grade 11 comp sci students. But at this moment, this is how I look at it. And it's not an easy digest. Let's put it that way. There's a lot here. I get it, but we'll do our best. Now, Bitcoin and Ethereum, they all have their own blockchains in this case as L2s. Bitcoins, as in this case, is being used to inscribe the Hemi state in in a immutable way. So if you wanted to verify Hemi's blockchain state, it would be secured on the Bitcoin blockchain. This is how it is. So you're leveraging Bitcoin security and trust factor. And in that case, therefore, increasing Hemi's trust factor as well. Hemi allows external projects to create their own chains secured by Hemi's technology, facilitating. So these are the L3s that are in the works. So let's put it in. That's where this project eventually wants to go, is to allow L3s. I know we're getting to an L3. I know you haven't heard one, guys. This concept is not very, very big, but the layer 3 is just to say, you know what, if you want to make, let's say, a parachain or a sub chain, of Hemi, you're free to do that and inherit all the functionalities of the Hemi chain while still having some modularity approach to your implementation of your blockchain. If you understand what I'm saying, good on you, because you've been doing your research here. Okay, so let's move on. I don't want to get too technical here. Getting started. So there's a little bit here on how to get started, navigating the docs, different things, different that. I'm going to try my best to exclude the things that are regarding development, because we're not here for that. We're here to understand what it is. So it's an ER. We got the ETH. We got Endpoint Explorer. So we can get on the ETH, any ETH wallet. You could definitely put that on the ETH wallet. Transactions, let's see what we got here. Code snippets, Hemi testnet, if you want to get involved there. Third-party providers, this and that. Okay, so that's more from a back-end perspective about the token itself, network itself. Token contract details, these are the contracts they have an Ethereum, Hemi, and BNB chain. Okay, BNB is all over this thing. You guys know that based on that, on the VC being involved there, the Binance incubator program, let's say, or VC program that they got there. So pretty good. Hemi contract details. If you want to know more, just make sure all of these are valid and so on when you're buying and so on. Foundational topics, architecture. This is where things get tough. Okay. And I don't plan on getting into too much detail here. Okay. And I'm not planning either to really read this all out to you. But the overview is, again, as I said many times, basically the Bitcoin and it leverages both Bitcoin and Ethereum's networks. Okay, so it allows the portability across both, so being able to permeate between both chains, enabling third-party cross-chain ecosystem. This is the benefit here. And then to create highly secure multi-chain ecosystem, and Hemi network operates several kinds of decentralized nodes. And these are the nodes that they discuss, and each node has a use case or a purpose. So Bitcoin finality governs, okay, these governors, basically they regulate the network security state by analyzing the Bitcoin blocks for Hemi's network state proof. So as I mentioned, Hemi basically inscribes its state on the Bitcoin blockchain. These particular nodes, the Bitcoin finality governors, they basically regulate and basically the status of the Hemi network by analyzing the Bitcoin blocks that are associated to Hemi. So in this case, Hemi's state is written on Bitcoin. And this is what this node does, is it reads its state and basically analyzes and makes sure its status is valid. Determining the network's finality status and ensuring security. This is what its job is. So Hemi gets written on the Bitcoin blockchain. It's state only. Okay. Bitcoin secured sequencers. So initiate Hemi network transaction with Ethereum mainnet transactions. Okay, it's a little bit more regular. Transactions on Ethereum and so on. Modified Geth node operates as a custom Ethereum node, providing compatibility and connectivity between the Hemi network and Ethereum. So having that possibility. And then the proof of proof miners secure the network by embedding state proofs into Bitcoin blockchain. This is where the actual information gets written to the Bitcoin blockchain. So as a setting new information on the chain itself. So hash networks, headers. So basically, only the network headers are basically put on the Bitcoin blockchain. And again, these are very technical, but this is used as proof of proof and publishes these to Bitcoin's chain. So then these guys right here can go and read the status and analyze the status. You get what I mean? So one writes, one reads and governs. This one here writes hash network headers to create a cryptographic proofs and publish these to Bitcoin, receive tokens as rewards for their contribution. So these miners get rewarded for inscribing to the Bitcoin blockchain or writing to the Bitcoin blockchain. This is great. This is good stuff. So I know I'm repeating myself just a little bit here, but I'm trying to say things in different ways, taking a very educational approach. Because the only way you're really going to be fundamentally bullish here is understanding what it's trying to achieve, right? So again, just to reiterate, this is a whole structure and a stack of tech that is meant to allow EVM compatibility and Bitcoin compatibility to be basically merged together into Hemi. And this is where it's at. This is this tech stack that provides that. Okay, so we're going to summarize a little bit towards the end as I get into the summary. So that's that. Let me just kind of move on. Guys, feel free to read through this. There's a lot of good stuff here. The roll up, the proof of proof, a little bit more. The tunnels. What are tunnels? Almost like a bridge, but not really. Okay, and the tunnels require liquidity, and that you also get rewarded for providing liquidity to the tunnels. Again, a lot more information here. Bridging, also known as tunneling, allows the transfer of assets between separate blockchains, such as between L1s and between L2s. You guys know this is all old tech anyway, but their implementation is a little bit different. Okay, Hemi Network enables sophisticated asset transfer and decentralization by maintaining protocol level state awareness of both Bitcoin and Ethereum. And this is where it can interact with the Bitcoin blockchain without needing wrapped anything. Okay, so native in itself, because it has access to a Bitcoin node right from the EVM compatible, basically virtual machine that it has, which is the Hemi one. Okay, so this is important. Okay, let's keep on going forward. How-to tutorials using Hemi, developing on Hemi. I'm not getting there. Building apps on Hemi. We're not going there. Tooling, address, contract verification. There's a lot here. Incentive. This is where maybe things are a little bit important. Points. Here you get on-chain engagement, off-chain participation. These are things that happen through the testnet. Now, I'm not sure if these are still active or what's going on with these. If people are season 2 mainnet token generation, this is already done. This is old information. I'm wondering when this was updated 10 months ago. Guys, it's due for an update. 10 months old is due for an update. Like, where are we at with all of this? The grants, done. This, I don't think there's even a purpose. And then different partners. You can see a lot of different relationships they have, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's move on here. What else we have? Frequently asked questions. These are usually pretty good. Where can I learn about Hemi, guys? Here you go. There's lots to learn about Hemi. How do I earn points? Again, that's old stuff. Smart contract deployment. Again, capsules. This is in what is a capsule? This is it. Capsule is an asset transfer protocol that allows anyone to batch and transfer multiple assets in a single package on Hemi, right? Additionally, it provides, because Hemi is EVM, basically you're using Ethereum as the gas fee. Okay, if they can package up multiple transactions into one, this allows the gas fee to be split up and therefore a lot cheaper, right? Basically, batch processing transactions. It provides users to developers advanced functionality like gasless transactions, rerouting, recalling, and configurable security. Learning more about Capsule Labs by visiting the Capsule. Interesting stuff, right? This is where it is. This is where we've seen things like this, right? Packaging different multiple transactions into one to leverage economies of scale, essentially. What else do we have? Official links, brand kit, and so on and so forth. So let's keep on going. Okay, that was pretty good. I'll give them that. Lots of information about their topics or architecture and such. I would definitely be looking into this if I were you guys and you wanted to know more. I would definitely do that. Um, Now, power of Bitcoin behind is programmability. You can see that this is that, fueling new programmable different things. We talked about this. This is the token itself. So let's talk about tokenomics, or maybe not. You know what? Let's put this on hold for a second. You know what we're gonna do, guys? Let's take a look. Let's watch this video for a second. I think it's valid. Okay, give me a second. I'm gonna get the audio going. And this, by the way, okay, is this dude right here. I'm just gonna not this dude. Let me see if I find him real quick. These are all some of the team members. Maxwell Sanchez, one of the lead contributors here to Hemi Labs. So I'm just gonna introduce him here. Maxwell Sanchez, he's part of the team. Young dude, seems very talented. So we're gonna listen to what he has to say for a second, okay? And I think it's really good.
So high level, you can think of Hemi as a Bitcoin and Ethereum L2. So most L2s they anchor into basically or connect to one single chain. So Optimism is only an L2 to Ethereum, right? And there's ways that you can interoperate between those L2s and other ecosystems, but they're through third party protocols that may introduce some trust models or some added complexity or risk or liquidity issues or whatever. And so what we set out to do with Hemi was take the architecture that allows Ethereum L2s to function very securely in the Ethereum ecosystem context, and then basically add in connectivity to Bitcoin in a way that was cohesive with everything already going on the Ethereum side. And so we took the best parts of Bitcoin, the best parts of Ethereum. We basically combined them together in a single protocol that speaks both languages. And so what that looks like from a more detailed perspective is Bitcoin security and Bitcoin assets and access to Bitcoin state, basically the ability for developers to build applications that observe activities on Bitcoin and respond to them, and combine that with the existing innovations and tooling that we have with the Ethereum virtual machine, the EVM, and also use Ethereum for DA or data availability, because that's one of the areas where Ethereum is really shining with high quality, uh, very secure and very well tested DA systems. And so combining those together, you get Hemi. And probably the most interesting part of what we're doing with Hemi on the Bitcoin side is what we call the HVM, or the Hemi virtual machine. And that's basically an EVM with a full Bitcoin node running inside of it. And so smart contracts, you can, on Ethereum, if you were to write a smart contract today, your smart contract could look at what another smart contract is doing. It could look at Uniswap pool and see what the current price is. It could look at an Oracle for some other off chain data. It could look at a lending market and see how much is being borrowed in a particular asset, right? So you have this ability for contracts to see each other, talk to each other. But on the Bitcoin side, you don't have any of that. Bitcoin's without going too much into the tech details, the way that Bitcoin's architecture works with something called the UTXO table is that everything that happens on Bitcoin happens in a very isolated environment. So even if you were to write a smart contract on Bitcoin using its very limited scripting language, you don't have the ability to look around on the rest of Bitcoin and see what else is happening. So like on Ethereum, you could say, hey, when this address receives one ETH, then release this collateral. But on Bitcoin, your everything's very isolated, very self-contained, and so you don't have the ability to look at in a Bitcoin script to look at what else is happening on Bitcoin. And so with HVM, what we did is we embedded that fully indexed Bitcoin node in the EVM. So you can now write smart contracts that can directly observe what is happening on Bitcoin. So you could write a smart contract that says, hey, whenever this address receives Bitcoin, go and take this action on the EVM. Or you could say, you know, only allow this user to do this thing as long as this UTXO on Bitcoin isn't spent. And so having that ability to look into and see what's happening on Bitcoin lets you build applications that are much more Bitcoin native. And so when you look at the current approaches to Bitcoin programmability, most of them center around take Bitcoin, wrap it in some way into an ERC20 asset, and then treat it just like any other ERC20. And there's a lot of validity to that approach, and there's a need in the space for that approach. But what often gets neglected is that ability to program more directly on Bitcoin, to observe what's happening on Bitcoin, and you can build versions of a lot of what we have in DeFi that is Bitcoin native. So the coins never have to be wrapped or bridged or whatever. You can interact with Bitcoin directly on the Bitcoin chain. You can observe Bitcoin directly on the Bitcoin chain. So you can build, non-custodial dexes, non-custodial lending protocols. You can even build like non-financial applications like a Bitcoin transaction accelerator that acts kind of like an MEV marketplace. And to build all those natively on Bitcoin, you need access to that data. And until HVM, there really wasn't a good way to get trustless, fully permissionless access to all of the data, everything that's happening on Bitcoin.
All right, guys. So essentially, he gave us a rundown. Actually, he made it sound so much better than I could. That means the value behind knowledge is definitely there. Geez. So you can see the actual value proposition here of integrating both Bitcoin and Ethereum, and what Hemi's trying to achieve. Very, very clear. Okay, so that's that. I think that was very useful. Again, we'll summarize this a little bit more towards the end. And as far as tokenomics go, so this is the only information that I have regarding tokenomics, because they don't have anything else updated on their white paper or even on their Git book. But after listening to an individual speak, and guys, there's a lot of different videos. In fact, that video right there is just a portion of it. That conversation gets into a lot of depth. Okay, and after listening to an individual like that with his background, and we'll talk about him as an individual soon, it starts to like put tokenomics into perspective, right? Because from a text perspective, it's on point. It is definitely on point. It's innovative, right? It is new, meaning that there's no first mover, right? Obviously, it's very speculative because of that. And then we start to integrate, how does tokenomics fit into this whole theme, right? Designed for transparency, built for institutions. Hemi aligns validators, developers, and institutions to build the basically convergence layer of Bitcoin economy. Now, the total supply, there's a lot, right? And then you notice that there's no max supply. Why? Because it's infinite. Okay, this is something that a lot of people don't understand. And I'm glad that, one way they don't put the fact that it's infinite, because that puts a lot of people thinking differently about the project. And it is due. I understand why, because infinite has, especially if you've been around from last cycles, the concept of infinite made things ugly, because we then had to come to the realization that we relied on a burn mechanism. Burning was necessary. This project is still very early. So burn right now may not be the priority. Distribution is a priority at the current moment, in a healthy way. Get these tokens out there, right? So 10 billion tokens, that's quite a bit. They're almost at a billion tokens, so approximately 10% already in circulation. Deflationary with validator and ecosystem rewards, emission model. Okay, so this, there's the flywheel there, and this flywheel is still fairly fresh, in the sense that things still need to be voted on, and we'll talk about the governance model here in a second, or lack thereof, because the truth is that although their tokenomics is very typical for a new project, we have to be very critical about how these tokens are being distributed. And at the current moment, you can see that approximately 50%, maybe a little slightly over, is allocated from an allocation perspective to early stakeholders. So we have the team and the core contributors 25%, investors and strategic partners 28%. If you add that together, it's more than 50%. Then we go look on the other side of the spectrum, and we start looking at, okay, we have the community and the ecosystem, and then we have the foundation, which is the Hemispheres Foundation, a foundation that is, helping out here, I guess, doing its thing for the Hemi. So now, who's in control of the foundation? The Hemispheres. Who's in control? Is there a foundation that is governed by governance, right? Is it a DAO? And although a lot of these projects should be governed by DAO, and eventually they do, the thing is that Hemi at the current moment, based on where these tokens are allocated, everything, all these tokens are, or whatever tokens are in control, are in circulation, which is not many. Remember, I said it's only 10%, right? So the ones that are currently in circulation are in control of the individuals that hold these tokens. And who are these individuals? That is the key. So they run through team, they run through investors, and some of these. We'll take a look at their missions, right? So at the early stages, and we're really in the early stages, some tokens have been distributed across the board, as you can see. And I wish there was more detail here. This is not enough for me. But you will note that currently there's only a select portion of the tokens that are really in a distributed state, in the sense that there's a highly concentrated. So I really want to get into here for a second. We have the team, the markets, foundation, the fundraising. Let's just quickly go here to fundraising. I'll show you what I mean here for a second. Let's kind of relocate this. So we know that YZI Labs was and its undisclosed investors, they hold a lot. They hold a lot of the majority of the tokens are being held by these guys right here. And that's could be part of the issue here because of token distribution being so concentrated to YZI Labs, right? Even September, all the way up to August 2025, they've been, investors here raising a lot of money. Now, all these guys are all involved as well, but we know that YZI Labs has been up in there, right? So this is the thing. The incubator program that they got going on here, they're the lead right now with the majority of the tokens. Undisclosed. Undisclosed, what does that mean? Right? Not very transparent if it's undisclosed. So this is the issue right now, is that there's, a certain amount, right, of tokens. There's currently 10% in distribution. Who owns what, right? That's what we really want to know. Does it matter though? It traditionally it does, because we have an emissions that's protects dilution, and over time we are going to get these tokens in distribution slow and steadily. But in the meantime, based on what is in circulation, who's in control here? And it seems to me that YZI Labs is the one in control. Okay. And of course, we're going to have some wallets that are held by the team. And then you see, based on emissions, a bit for ecosystem, and bit for this, a bit for that. It is what it is, guys. Okay. I would say that at the current moment, the protocol, emissions, the ecosystem is highly weighted at the current moment. So it's more, which means it's healthy. We're getting more tokens for ecosystem growth. Community ecosystem is a little bit less. Down here with this color, you can see that right here. But the protocol emissions right now as rewards, that's where we're getting that. The community ecosystem combined is quite big. So that's healthy. That's what we want. Ecosystem support. Okay, so that's all we got regarding tokenomics, unfortunately. I'll use a little bit more detail as far as that goes. And it is what it is. So what we can see is the value flows through the Hemi network. Free distribution and burn network fees are split between validators, liquidity pools, and treasuries. So there's lots of rewards. A portion is burned to maintain deflationary pressure. No information regarding burning. There's none. So no details as to what's the rate, how, when, this, that. And again, it's hard because without a proper DAO or anything, we don't know. There's a lot of ambiguity, right? Smart contracts autonomously manage rewards and liquidity to stabilize network yield. Token holders directly incentivized towards specific protocols and dApps. So, this is the thing here, creating a decentralized marketplace for rewards, okay? But we need to be able to have some sort of governance, right? VDAO of some sort. Users can stake both Hemi and stake BTC, align validators to use incentives into a single yield loop. Okay, pretty good. What can it be used for? Voting. There's no governance yet, unfortunately. Liquidity provisions, of course. Powering of DeFi protocols built on the Hemi network. Of course, it's typical. But where is the governance, right? How are we going to make sure that the tokens that are going to be distributed to the foundation and to the ecosystem are going to be allocated in a way that is decentralized? That is the biggest issue. Okay, now that's why I say, like, it's very important that at this stage in the game, at this stage of Hemi, that we trust the team. Right, this is how it goes, guys. Hemi is available for major decentralized exchanges, Uniswap and Curve, and that's a big announcement that happened just recently with Curve and its pool that it just came up with. I think that's why we've got a nice pump in the last 24 hours. Can I stake Hemi? Yes, you can stake Hemi, secures the network and allows it to earn validator delegated rewards. So staking, that's one of the use cases. Audited, it is audited by a couple people, but there are smart contracts that are audited, of course. Where can I learn more about Hemi's governance? Governance documentation is available on Hemi Docs. It's not really there. There's not a lot happening at the current moment. Okay, so even if you go on the Hemi Docs, which is right here, there's nothing really happening with governance at the moment. Okay, so I think they're in the works. I think it's something that we could expect soon, but I couldn't really find any really concrete information. So that's that. Most productive Bitcoin engines, Bitcoin system. I apologize if this is cut off. Um, and you can see that they have a fairly decent ecosystem. This is all of what they got here. Now they could qualify this as an ecosystem, but we can couple this up to say, you know what, it's participants, it's relationships, and so on and so forth. And you can see we've talked about these in the past. Lots of small little projects that are currently working with Hemi to provide liquidity or to provide, like, even sushi swaps, the most multi-chain DEX that lets you swap anything. Is this a partnership? Is it part of their ecosystem? Okay. It's not a partnership. Is a relationship. It's a liquidity provider. That's what it is. At the end of the day, it allows people to trade on chain, which is good. It's good to be there, right? Stargate, that's a big one. Fully composable liquid transfer protocol that lives on the heart of omni-chain DeFi. We'll talk about that one. Satoshi protocol. There's a lot of good little relationships that we got to be bullish on, no doubt, right? And you can see that lots of them. Layer Bank, Pump BTC, Plume. That's a project that's been lingering around and lasted a while. Real world assets, no doubt. If you're bullish on Plume, that's not bad. And we keep on going on. There's a lot of different things. I'm wondering how real world assets is going to be, integrated into the Hemi ecosystem in the future. That's definitely part of DeFi that might benefit here, from the interoperability between Bitcoin and smart contract plays, right? So interesting stuff. That's about it, guys. Lots of little relationships for me. That's the biggest takeaway. And there's a lot of good partnerships that I was able to kind of like highlight here. So your Bitcoin yield, you can see future of Bitcoin is programmable. Hemi is the network that's scaling Bitcoin beyond money, backed by YZI Labs. That's the biggest value proposition. A lot of people are bullish on that fact. We got tunnel Bitcoin to Hemi and move Hemi to Ethereum via Stargate Finance, right? To participate in our fresh pool at Curve DAO, Curve Finance, CRV. Guys, this is pretty good. This is great, right? This is the beginning of this cross compatibility. Hemi BTC on Hemi, not a wrapped Bitcoin, just to make that clear. But at the end of the day, it is there. Okay, so tunnel Bitcoin to Hemi Bitcoin on Hemi chain. Interesting stuff. Look at that. This is a good one. Curve. Hemi and Curve doing their thing. Lots of good relationships here. We got Gluck's protocol. We got Glue X protocol. What else do we have here? Wort.io. A lot of different relationships. I was looking through them today. There's so many. This was the dude that we just talked about that we went through the video. A very talented individual. OG in this space. There's lots of OGs, Bitcoin OGs here in Hemi. And as you can see, Merkle, new yield opportunities, a lot of them, guys. Like a lot of these are official announcements of relationships that they have within the crypto space. Merkle again, there's a lot of them. Guys, I can be scrolling here all day. I'm not going to do that to you guys. I did make a little bit of a list of some of the relationships. Li-Fi protocol further expands access to Hemi across multiple EVM networks and non-EVM like Solana. Yeah, Solana is one of the biggest issues here, is because it's a highly utilized chain, but it's not EVM. So it's hard to get off the Solana island, let's put it that way, or on the Solana island with Bitcoin or even Ethereum, right? So we're trying to make these islands, bridge together, or tunnel in this case, right? So a lot of good stuff. Anatomy here. Read the full report. They got a lot of good posts on their blogs. We're gonna talk about their socials as we go through. So lots of good relationships. Again, I can be here all day, but I'm gonna move on from that. And again, Echo Protocol. I'm just gonna quickly look at all this, guys. You look at stake on Hemi, different things that they're going on here with regards to stables. That's important. We know how important the stablecoin narrative is. So very important. The DeFi aspect of things, midweek Mac. This is what is quite cool. These guys. They come with this. They come up with this weekly, midweek report. The commitment I've seen is amazing here, guys. Like, you want a roadmap? Okay, you're not going to get a roadmap. Okay, you're not going to get a solid roadmap from them, but you're going to get a weekly report. Okay, you're going to get a weekly AMA, with different things happening, different conversations, what they're working on. And that for me is bullish. In a way, that might be even better than an official roadmap. And the fact that they do this is great, right? So the Spectra Finance, again, Gamma, they got lots of different little hyper native labs, right? Lots of different things. Okay, so check out their socials, guys. Go give them a follow and see what they got. Read into them because they have a lot of different things happening here. Research, DL Research, and Hemi. They had a couple good ones earlier on this year that was quite bullish from a security perspective. Again, the report, midweek report, that's amazing. With Max, the dude's everywhere. Maxwell, he's everywhere. Okay, let's move on. What else do we got here? This was what I was talking about. The blog, they got lots of things happening here. It is well attended to, well published, and not abandoned. Okay, that's a key thing for me because I've seen a lot of blogs. I would say out of 130 deep dives that I've done, I would say only maybe maximum 5% keep up with their blog posts. Okay, that's telling you something. Okay, so that's good. What else do we have here? Latest news on Hemi. I wanted to look at some of their tokenomics here. Let me see if I can refresh this. Something's not popping up here. Okay, I had something here that I wanted to share with you. Deep dive on the code base. Where is it? Let's see if I can find something. So latest updates. So this is a bit of a roadmap, what they're working on here. November, August 20. It's a little bit outdated, but this is their economic model. They're already on phase 2. I'm seeing what they got here. This is a little bit outdated. This is the problem. I was looking for a proper roadmap. Next 2026. This is it. The BitVM tunnel mainnet, the chain builder L3 ecosystem, the L3 concept of things where devs can come and spin up their own layer, and basically have full modularity on that layer is quite bullish. Okay, so we're going to see what happens with their economic model phase 2 that's already in the works, and decentralized sequencing, interesting transition to POS based sequencer for network resilience. So if you want to know more about what they have in the pipeline, this is it. This is right here. So good stuff for the team to issue some of these things on the agenda. And then we have the team. Guys, this is a long deep dive. Guys, you can imagine how much work I've done here to really wrap my mind around all of this. Now, I'm going to do my best to represent these individuals as best as possible. I've already represented Maxwell Sanchez very, very well. As you can see, well-spoken, very, very intelligent individual. He's young and bright. Okay, so let's just continue quickly going through some of this. I go on their LinkedIn page, which is good. They're fully doxed. Okay, the fully doxed team. What they have going on here is quite interesting. Okay, so the people, they got a relatively small team in comparison to some of the other projects that I've noticed that have 100 teams, but it doesn't matter. 100 team members is not necessary. They got a good amount of talent here. They got OGs in this space. They got marketing. I'm quite bullish on their marketing personnel. Ryan here seems to be like someone that's well established in the space, and so on and so forth. So let's touch upon some of these individuals. We got Matthew Rozak, chairman of Block and co-founder of Hemi. So I'm just going to quickly just put this in your mind. This logo and this Block Inc., just put on the back burner, but just keep an eye on it. Okay, so co-founder Hemi to present, he's there. He's doing his thing with the Hemi team. Economics, that's his background. The reason why he's here for me is because he's not only he's the co-founder, no doubt, but he is he's one of the faces of the company. Okay, so that's important of the team, right? So I felt like, okay, why not chairman of Block and co-founder of Hemi as one of the co-founders? Why not? Then we have Ryan, marketing department, marketing personnel, marketing specialist, and he's a marketing director and strategy here. I think he's definitely has what it takes to drive Hemi to a higher level. So to present, he's been there for a year and 4 months. And the reason why I think he's good because I've never seen a marketing individual in a project that has secure background. Now he Camp Network. This is an old project that I've been following for a bit. Content creator here, on-chain creators, full-time social media strategist. And if you look at it, it's Web3 crypto audience, Web3 newsletter, right? So we're talking about Web3 content marketing. This is a specialized. He's specialized in Web3. It's not like he's a marketing coming out of Nestle or some random. This is his thing. And for me, that's what I want to see. Is we need proper marketing and communications here. So good stuff there to have him on board. Bullish on that for sure. And then of course Maxwell Sanchez, guys, he's an OG in this space as well. I know he looks young. He's young, but he's been in Bitcoin and developing on Bitcoin for a good while. I think since at least 2017ish, he's been there doing his thing. So he's definitely a big part of it. Co-founder and CTO of Hemi Labs, full-time, and co-founder of CTO Very Blocks Inc. Okay, so software support, CureCoin, developer, sorry, and good stuff there. That's all you really got, but really, that's all you really need. Okay, so let's move on. We got this dude right here, VP of Engineering at Block Inc. Again, just keep an eye on here. Hemi Labs, Block, 8 years full time, lead blockchain engineer, and so on. And let's keep on going. So we got some great PhD in astronomy. This guy in physics and astronomy, intelligent individuals, no doubt. And then we have Jeff. Okay, so Jeff is an interesting individual, and a lot of people would be most bullish on Jeff, not only because, he's obviously an educated individual and so on, but he's directly related to the foundations of Bitcoin. He's one of the original contributors to the Bitcoin development team, Satoshi level development team. This is important. Why? Because he represents the Bitcoin at its core, right? So just because he's looking at a layer one smart contract platform doesn't mean that he's deviating from the importance of Bitcoin, right? This is the important aspect. He's not a trader, right? He realizes the Bitcoin's capabilities, and he's seen that the industry is slowly realizing that yes, in order to see full use of blockchain, we need to have smart contracts, but the value behind Bitcoin still stands true. So now that we've experimented and played in the sandbox of L1s and smart contracts, how can we leverage Bitcoin's value and what it does best to help that industry actually reach a proper goal? And this is where we're at with this individual. Jeff is one of the OGs. Now, um, Max was basically the creator behind the proof consensus. This dude right here, he's got the know and knowledge about Bitcoin through and through, which is good. He is also the co-founder of Block Inc. Block Inc., the one that I'm always have been telling you to keep in your mind. And as you go down, you can see Georgia Institute of Technology from way back, but it's all good. This guy is definitely a household name for the Bitcoin community. So Jeff Garzik, it is what it is, guys. That's bullish. Okay, to know that we have Satoshi level talent here in the team. Okay, so co-founder and stuff. Okay, so that's good. Now, just to give it an idea of what Block is, because I think that's very important as well, is building the infrastructure, applications, innovations that power Web3. So yes, we're bullish on Hemi, but Hemi's has a team, or Hemi incorporates a team that is focusing on Web3. Okay, so smart contract platforms and such. And a good portion of the lead team is also has a history with Block, which is good. They're bringing Block technology, which was the proof of proof. I think proof of proof was developed within this aspect of Block, right, and then brought into Hemi, which is totally great, totally fine, right? So I'm quite interested in to see how this whole dynamic works, right? This team is a 10 out of 10 team. And this is something that we have to understand. Okay, guys, this was a lot. I apologize for making this long. We've reached the level of where I'm ready to summarize and conclude. I'm going to be releasing this summary throughout the socials for you guys so that you guys can use this as a bit of a cheat sheet, a reminder, a quick reference to kind of remind you about what Hemi is all about. I try to keep these videos around an hour. That's the whole goal, but sometimes I start yapping, and you know how it is. So I felt, because of the complexity of this project, I'm going to just quickly read this overview. Hemi Network is a modular layer 2 blockchain that aims to unify Bitcoin and Ethereum by enabling cross-chain interoperability, leveraging Bitcoin security with Ethereum's programmability. Done, right? That's it. Its core in innovation is the Hemi Virtual Machine, HVM, which embeds a full Bitcoin node within an EVM compatible environment, okay, enabling native interactions with Bitcoin data via smart contracts. Guys, that's it. That's the statement. That's what should have been at the top of their website, okay? Straight with a bit of infographic of sorts, and that's what needs to be said. That's what the early investor, that's what the retail investor needs to know. Plain and simple. Okay, so I'm glad to be reading that out to you guys. Let's take a look at their individual components. Now, I'm just going to tell you, I struggled with this. Why? Is because ecosystem, utility, and all of this kind of like cross with one another. So it's a young ecosystem, small but many. Okay, I see Spectral, River, Merkle, VFAT. There was so many guys. I couldn't even list them all. So I did my best. The thing is, I'm waiting for the big punch. Is even the big punch necessary for its ecosystem? I want to see the apps being developed there, right? Even the L3s that are going to come out would be cool to see its ecosystem. So I'm leaving that open for applications being built, native applications, maybe even native ones. We will see if the team is going to actually develop something on there, because that's another big critique of mine from all the L1s or all the blockchains that exist, is that they create the blockchain and then they walk away and don't create native applications. So let's leave it at that. I want to see what applications get built, and more so, I want to see some of these L3s get active. So we have opportunity still to get to 10 out of 10, which means we might be undervalued. So don't take these ratings as, oh, it's bad because they only got 8. It's that there's something to work towards. Meaning, once we get at a 10 out of 10 stage, the price might be higher. The evaluation of this project will be higher. So think of these as an opportunity also, not just a disadvantage, okay? So utility, 9 out of 10. Staking, node incentives, and tunnel operations all get right now done through the Hemi token. Just understand, it is not the gas token. Ethereum is still the gas that has to be used in order to transact. Very important to understand. A lot of people might think otherwise. Okay. And in addition to that, I did not list governance because it's not active at the current moment. So we have a little bit of that issue right now. Where's the governance with the token distribution and token allocation? We have a little bit of an issue there where some of the VCs might hold too much of the tokens, and that's why maybe lately we've been seeing a bit of that price action that we don't really like. And we'll talk about price action in a second. Roadmap, mainnet launch July 2024, so it's fairly new here. You got to understand, midweekly updates are crazy ways, great ways, and crazy ways to keep up with what Hemi's doing. However, they don't have an official roadmap. I was able to find one that I shared with you in the video, but really, I want to see something official. Accountability is important, and because of that, I kind of like, say, put your money where your mouth is, and at least tell us where you're going to be going quarterly in an official way on documentation, black and white, please. Right? That's all it is. Now, if that's the case, just understand that people are going to worry about where the team is going with things, and that would be totally fine. If you accept that, and some projects do. They say, you know what, I'm not releasing a roadmap. I'm done. I'll be ready when it's ready. Totally fine, but you're leaving your investors out in the shade, which is that's something that you're going to have to digest and take it on the chin. And if that's the team strategy, so be it. We got to decide, is that something that you're okay with or not? And that's why I say, look, if you gave me more transparency, I would be a lot more happier to say, by the first quarter of this year, I am going to expect to see this to happen. So you know what? I'm bullish. I'm buying. It is what it is, guys. It's communication. The team is 10 out of 10. Okay, so we got Jeff, Jeff Garzik involvement in Bitcoin development. So he's an OG in this space. We talked about Max. He's young and talented, and many others are young and talented in the team. So I'm not going to highlight individuals specifically, but Max seems to be a big part and a big face of the organization, but young and very talented, and a big part of the consensus mechanism and how Hemi operates. Experienced and knowledgeable, guaranteed. The whole concept right here, both Jeff and Max, which I would say, and there's obviously others, but they're right now being the face of the team, is very, very experienced and knowledgeable. So I am with full confidence with the fact is that the team is very capable of producing. That's it, bottom line. So do tokenomics matter in this case? Does governance really matter? Do we trust the team? It's got to be a bit of a faith-based system here. We got to trust the team now to a degree, right? So that's how it is. And we got to trust some of those relationships like the YZI Labs. Socials, they got a decent amount of followers, right? On X, 290,000 followers with little engagement, unfortunately. I would like to see, a bit more of that. Telegram is an announcement only. Telegram is usually a very degen, quote unquote, degen place to be. Discord is a lot better. You can control the quality of the conversation. However, the issue that I have here is Discord is quite quiet, and I don't see. I've been on there for the last little while, guys, and I don't see any team presence. There's nobody from the team really there. There's nothing. There's no engagement, no hype. There's no energy. And that's a bit of a problem from a marketing perspective. So we need to get that energy, Hemi. We need to get some, something happening there. And the blog and weekly updates are consistent and very valuable. Okay, so overall, 7 out of 10. Marketing needs to be a little bit pushed a little bit more. So I'm hoping to see that talented individual, I forget his name right now, I apologize, but to get some of this action going, okay, and get individuals hungry here at this level. And tokenomics, early stakeholders are allocated 50% plus of the emitted via vesting. So there is a vesting schedule that's going to totally get these tokens in distribution slow and steadily. This is one thing that we have to understand, but it's still going to be greater than 50%. So we have to rely on the fact that the emissions is going to control the dilution, number one. And number two, that these allocated tokens, at the end of the day, guys, people are going to take profit, whether the VCs or even the team. They got to eat. Okay, so eventually they're going to take profit when Hemi pumps and whatever. People are going to take profit off the table, and we're hoping that the team is not one of them, obviously, because they're going to be in the mindset of holding. But the reality is, it's within their rights to do so. Okay, so that's that. And as far as the rest of the tokens, again, we need a little bit more information because community and ecosystem foundation allocations are front loaded, which are great, right? To see that, to get some of that traction. And for ecosystem development, that's amazing. But without governance, we're still relying on the team to spend or to put that capital or that liquidity into play in the way that is the best for Hemi. It's a very faith-based, trust-based system. Without governance and with the distribution and token distribution, it's quite difficult. And with YZI Labs holding the majority of the tokens, it makes things a bit of a difficult situation from a tokenomics perspective. Okay, and it is totally acceptable as a new project to have such dynamics. To be honest, I've seen this many times. So it is what it is. You got to be real with it. Yeah, you can think that that's normal and it's fine, but really it's not very the most healthiest way to do things. But it's part of the process, guys. It's part of the process. Okay, so it is what it is. You got to be speculative at the moment and assume risk where need be, and risk usually leads to reward. And as long as you do it with a healthy mindset, you should be able to take advantage of risk to reward ratios. Okay, so it is what it is. Relationships, we have YZI Labs, again, something that everybody's bullish on. Crypto.com, Gate Ventures, we got Brayer Capital, many capital institutions there that are providing liquidity and holding capital. Early VCs right now are all over this thing. Li-Fi, QuantStamp, Security, Pluto's Money, Spectra Finance, Eco Protocol, lots of good relationships. So one may argue that these also fit into the ecosystem, but I decided to leave the ecosystem as is and focus on the fact that its internal ecosystem is very, very young and still has some growth, but at the same time realize that its relationships are 10 out of 10. Okay, 10 out of 10. Lots of good relationships, little ones, big ones, VCs everywhere. So that's good. Now, when we look at exchanges, when we look at liquidity, Binance, Gate, Mexi, Aster, Bitmart, and Bitnex, which is great, guys. If you're looking for a Bitnex account, I got links in the description. They're offering great bonuses, especially now in the holiday season. Go check it out. But there's a few more smaller exchanges listed, but we're not getting anything major from Coinbase or any mid-tier exchanges. There's a lot more. Like, where's Bybit? Like, not Mexi, KuCoin, and so on, guys. There's a lot more that could be added to the list that are not. So maybe a few more listings on exchanges might allow more liquidity and more pumpage. Let's put it that way, guys. If you're looking for opportunity, this might be an opportunity. The fact that it's not listed on Coinbase and all the other mid tiers, this is an opportunity to see some more pumps, and then we get to 10 out of 10, and then it's done, right? So look at all this as an opportunity. I think all of this, all these metrics right here have to be considered with the glass full and the glass empty. Okay, it is what it is. We've been getting a lot of trading volume in comparison to its market cap, so good percentage of volume in the last little while, which is good. Remember that unfortunately the chart hasn't been doing the greatest, but I just want to get through my verdict, and then we'll take a look at the price action, guys. We have an L2 Bitcoin EVM build on Bitcoin, Bitcoin Fi narrative project. Okay, so it is full on, right? It is a lot of technology. It's a lot to discuss and digest. Hence the length of this video. Gap between circulating and total supply implies a dilution risk. We have to accept that. Okay, and that's the fact. Okay, whether you like it or not, we try to find ways to make that feel and look better through vesting, through governance, through this and that. But the truth is, it is what it is. Okay, so infinite supply can be misrepresented in this space. Just note that typically, if there's going to be an increase in total supply, it is done through governance. So there is no governance yet, so we're not really that worried. And could the team technically have the authority to do that? I guess so, right? At this point, why would they want to sabotage their own project in this case? So in this case, infinite supply usually comes with some sort of burning mechanism, which was defined, but not in detail to really know how we're going to implement that burning mechanism to counteract inflation. That's something else that needs to be worked on and discussed clearly in the white papers. That is definitely white paper material. And in addition to that, I would suggest that they provide a little bit more data and information regarding its vesting and be more accurate there and precise. No evidence of an active DAO governance. Who is in control of the foundation ecosystem allocation? Again, nobody knows. I don't know. It's the team. Proof of proof. Miners earn Hemi tokens as rewards for embedded Hemi state proofs into the Bitcoin blockchain. We discussed that. Sequencers and other network contributors are rewarded in Hemi for maintaining uptime, integrity, and network services, like a typical node would, like a typical proof of stake node would be rewarded. This is how it goes. Hemi is not a native gas token for Hemi. Ethereum is. This is important, okay, because a lot of people might consider this otherwise. Governance has yet to be implemented. I already wrote that, unfortunately. It's all good. And Block Team, building the infrastructure, applications, and innovations that power Web3. Block Team is quite interesting because they're like literally the development aspect of Hemi, and it looks like they're bringing some of the technology from there into Hemi. That's interesting. So I've seen this before. I've seen this with other projects where they have a separate organization that cooks up the sauce, and then they bring the sauce to their Web3, which is totally understandable. Speculative narrative with no market leader, guys. Now, as far as projection, that last statement that I said, speculative narrative with no market leader. This needs to be considered with this projection. And I'm not comparing Hemi with any project, because the only one you can really compare with is Stacks, okay, which is fine. But who cares about that right now? What we got to understand is that there's no project within this narrative that hit $1 billion market cap with strength, with conviction, right? So I'm looking for a first mover that can actually penetrate and become the first project to really hold its own within this narrative, almost like a Hyperliquid did for the perp DEX, right? We need a project to be that project. Is this going to be it? And every time we see these projects enter this narrative, we've seen them kind of simmer away, right? And they're still there. There's a lot of them there. I'm not going to mention any names, right? But they're still there. They're still doing their thing. But could Hemi be the one? If it reaches $1 billion market cap, which would be the ideal evaluation for a first mover within a narrative, right? That happens all the time. It would reach $1. And reaching $1 means that this thing could do, I have a 67x. But you get what I mean, guys. Like, don't hold these numbers to accuracy. It's just the concept. If Hemi can actually be the first mover of within the Bitcoin narrative to achieve Bitcoin's complete liquidity into a smart contract way, let's say using Bitcoin as a liquid smart contract asset, guys, this thing could actually reach $1 billion market cap. Right? That's the reality. We've seen this in this space to see such projects achieve that. So again, now we're going to talk about, okay, the ratings. There's things that need to be improved, and based on speculation and based on the tech, unfortunately, you have to give it that rating because there's things that need to be improved here from a marketing, from a packaging perspective. This is not just about the tech. If it was just about the tech, 10 out of 10, right? But this is not just. This is a Web3 deep dive. So what I have to do is encompass all the little factors, right? The roadmap and that transparency, right? The socials need a little bit of work. The tokenomics, without governance, with governance I would be a lot happier there and provide a little bit more. And obviously, it's just the nature of the game of tokenomics to be poor in a state where a project is new. It is what it is. Right. And taking an educational approach would be awesome here to really define its ecosystem, its utility, and so on. So right now, I am bullish on Hemi. The thing is that it still needs a bit of work, right? As far as for product market fit, from a marketing perspective, and many other perspectives here. Guys, you guys know the chart hasn't been in our favor, but I have been accumulating. All right, guys, I know you're to talk about charts. So let's begin. Let's see what we got here for the Hemi chart. Hemi, at the end of the day, has been dipping. Guys, we came back right to where we came from. As you can see here on the MEXC chart, full round trip all the way back to previous lows. In fact, it made a lower low in comparison to previous bottom. The question is, are we done here? Is this volume an indication of a reversal? Let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. Now, guys, as you guys know, as a trader myself, I look for opportunity. And the thing is that the history of Hemi and I in the community was pretty good. We ran this thing up from here to here on a leverage trade on the weekend, on the, I think it was September 7th weekend. I know that very clearly because it was an important day for me. And I was trading Hemi with the community on Discord, and we were pumping it, right? It was pumping, it was doing great. And then unfortunately, I had no choice to be the one to also short it. And I did short it, and I made that very transparent. I'm a trader, guys. I don't care. But now, after doing a deep dive and seeing where the price is at, I have no choice but to think of it as an investor. Am I an investor also? Well, guess what, guys? I have now become an investor. I feel like ultimately, yes, its tech is there. Yes, the price looks like trash. Yes, we pumped and dumped. I understand that. But the names behind Hemi and the value proposition behind Hemi deserves some attention. Because if it is going to be the first mover within the narrative and seeing Binance all over it and seeing, the names behind it and so on, makes me believe that it has a good shot. Now, I'm not saying it's going to get into price discovery and start pumping into the moon and hitting that $1, but it definitely could. But I'm telling you this, where we are right now, from a risk to reward ratio opportunity, whether you're an investor or a trader, it's a perfect time to start paying attention. Okay, this is the point of interest that I look for. Right, we came down, we structured. Was it good? It swept up, failed, lower low. Break a structure to the downside, fell through the imbalance. Did we get any structure here to justify a move? No. We kept on dripping and dripping and dripping and dripping. And I left the Hemi alone. I was not really active trading any longer, right? Now I'm accumulating. I'm in this range. So I have no choice but to get into lower levels and start asking myself, could we build a proper structure here? Also known as maybe a floor price. Something that suggests that there's no more sellers. Sellers are exhausted. That's what we need. Now, I'll tell you this. Look at the oscillator here, this red expansion. We came down hot. You can see that we're making lower lows on the price action all the way into here. And then we start diverging to the upside. This expansion is getting weaker and weaker. And you can see the purple line. Its momentum is also shifting to the upside. Volatility line, the orange line, this is a higher low, while the price made a lower low. Very clearly. Expansions right here. Look at these. Look at what happened. Green histogram bars. EMA is facing up. Class A bullish divergences. We are on the uptrend, still in a bearish state, but we're in an uptrend waiting for recovery. This is the thing. This is where we start to see absorption and reversal price action without market structure actually reversing, meaning that we see the price still making lower lows and lower highs, looking still bearish, but behind the scenes, we are seeing momentum shifts in momentum. Okay, this is important because when you see these divergences, this is watch list material, okay, for a full pump here. So we got lots of volume, obviously, lots of volume. Participation is there. And since yesterday, where we got the curve down announcement, it's been pumping. It did fairly well on this green candle. Let's take a look at this on the 4-hour. You might say, Mike, but what is this pump? Yeah, it's a decent pump. Let's see. Look what it did. It pumped and it came back down also. A lot of people are salty. It pumped 62%, right? But a lot of people are salty on Hemi. Guys, the sentiment on Hemi is really bad. You saw the chart, right? Full round trip. You know how many people bought the top? I remember when it was pumping to the top, a lot of people were Hemi, 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 Hemi. And then as soon as it came down, of course, people are unhappy. Well, now's the time to say, you know what? You're able to buy at a great risk to reward ratio, right? So even down here, like, to be honest, we got oversold, we pumped, already overbought. Do we come down and get oversold again? Or do we stay overbought and start getting green expansions up? Look at the time, every time we get a green expansion, we actually get a nice extension to the upside. So technically speaking, we're early for a reversal. We're early to suggest, yes, the change of character is not here. We are still printing lower lows and lower highs, even on the 4-hour. It's very clear. Lower lows and lower highs. Show me one higher high or a higher low. That would be the beginning of a change of character, a shift in market structure. Up until now, the trend is still your friend, lower lows and lower highs. Every impulsive move have been impulsive moves that induce the market and act as exit liquidity, price action. Inducement, dump. Inducement, dump. I'm not taking that chance. However, if after this inducement we come down and make a higher low and go for another higher high, guys, we start to look at this as potential shift in direction. Particularly that after every other attempt to do this, even here, okay, this was pretty good volume, but you can see that here we got different type. We got a lot more. Huge amounts of volume, right? And the truth is that we got to identify range. Let's quickly do that. And I'm not talking about price action range, just price action range, volume range, right? So look here. Look at this volume. If we can stay in here, I would say it is a good accumulation range, as long as we don't break below this bottom. Okay, if we break below this bottom, you got to get out because we're going to break down even further. However, if we can stay here, the best time to be accumulating is at range lows, right around 1.3 cents. Why? Because your invalidation is below. If it breaks down, get out. You take a small loss and you're done. But what about if we start pumping from here and go back to range highs and maybe come down again and retrace and go back to range highs and go down again and go back to range highs? A little by little, guys, we might do something like this and then eventually, bang, we start moving. And what does that look like to you? A market structure shift, a change of character. As soon as we confirm a break of these tops, right, and a break above this volume node, it starts to change directions. No more lower lows and lower highs. In fact, we got higher lows, confirmed higher high, bang, starts to move. So what you have to do is define this range as a potential opportunity of a reversal when we start to see the market structure giving you the first indications of that reversal, which is the first higher low or higher high. That's the only thing, because this would be higher than this high, which would be great. We could even blast off and get above this one. In that case, it would look like something like this. Straight up, break above here, back test confirmation, and then bang, higher high. Higher highs, higher lows, and we're above the range, and we start moving again, right? And either way, that would be great. But right now, we're below lower lows and lower highs. So we're taking a chance, even though we're getting divergences. Guys, we can get multiple drives of a Class A bullish divergence before we actually get follow through to the upside. So watch this material for sure. Fundamentals are on point. It is right now at a great level from risk to reward ratio. You're not buying any tops. Let's be real about that. You're buying bottoms. You're buying capitulation moments, moments of which people are ready to just run for the hills. And that's when usually is the best time to buy. All right, guys, if I've offered you any value in this video, do the channel a massive, massive favor. Slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.